Nakumatt: Rise, Dominance, and Collapse. How Kenya's retail giant went from a mattress shop in Nakuru to the biggest chain in East Africa, then imploded. And what this teaches entrepreneurs, suppliers, and even regulators. Hello guys, it's DJ George once again. So today we are telling the full story of Nakumatt, once Kenya's dominant supermarket chain and a household name across East Africa. This is the story of explosive growth, big ambitions, tragic setbacks, and a messy collapse that affected thousands of employees, suppliers, and shoppers. I'll walk you through how Nakumatt grew, the key events that led to its downfall, the human costs, and the lesson every business should learn from it. I'll also point to your original sources so you can read the reporting and see the videos and photos for yourself during your own free time. Nakumatt began humbly as a mattress shop in Nakuru. The name comes from Nakuru mattress. From that small start, it expanded into a general retail, eventually becoming a household name across Kenya and neighboring countries. At its peak around 2014-2015, Nakumatt had roughly 60 to 65 stores in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. It employed thousands of people and generated hundreds of millions in annual revenue. It had become, for many shoppers, the default place for groceries, electronics, and household equipments. Expansion was Nakumatt's defining move. The chain invested in large format stores and presence in major malls and towns. That growth helped it capture market share quickly and build a recognizable brand. But rapid expansions also meant heavy overheads, large leases in prime locations, complex logistics to stock main outlets across countries, and big working capital needs to pay suppliers and staffs. Those costs are normal for retailers, but they become very dangerous when growth outpaces systems, cash reserves, and governance. Analysts later described Nakumatt as explosive growth that overwhelmed management systems.
These were the pictures from the burning building after the fire broke out at Nakumatt downtown. Located at the junction of Kimathi Street and Kenyatta Avenue in Nairobi's Central Business District. The fire is said to have started shortly after 3 p.m. and before long, the entire supermarket was engulfed in flames and smoke.
In January 2009, a devastating fire at Nakumatt Supermarket in downtown Nairobi killed people and shocked the country. The fire exposed safety lapses and raised questions about store safety and emergency response. It remains one of the tragic episodes in the chain's history and is a reminder that operational risk and human safety must be taken seriously by any retailer.
We have been following up our payments from Nakumatt, but incidentally, the Nakumatt has been placed on receivership since 22nd of January this year.
Of Nakumatt lifestyle and the close to 5,000 customers it serves daily. The supermarket has been evicted from its premises along Monrovia Street in the Central Business District. Staff arrived to work early this morning only to find the doors closed and notices of the closure being put up.
By around 2016, suppliers began to complain. The business faced growing cash flow problems. Suppliers weren't being paid on time, rent and wages were delayed, and stores began to close. Suppliers are oxygen for a retailer. When they stop delivering because they are not paid on time, shelves go empty and customers go elsewhere. Report from 2016-2017 show that Nakumatt started missing payments to suppliers and landlords, which triggered a suppliers' revolt and contributed to a downward spiral.
Nakumatt has survived again after the High Court today allowed it to appoint an administrator as it struggles to remain afloat. Peter Obondo Kahi is now the administrator appointed under Section 563 of the Insolvency Act. His key job will be to ensure that a meeting is held for all of the retailers' creditors and have their concerns addressed. This meeting is set to take place within the next 60 days. 7 days after the meeting is held, the administrator is expected to provide a report to the court for further directions. This latest development means that Nakumatt will not be evicted from any premises.
Administrators were appointed and there were attempts to find buyers or investors. At various points, the company negotiated stake sales and restructuring proposals. But the scale of debt, reportedly hundreds of millions of dollars owed to suppliers, landlords, and lenders, made any single rescue difficult. Several credible rescue attempts stalled or failed. By the late 2019, what remained of the business was sold in pieces and creditors eventually voted to liquidate the company in early 2020. Atul Shah and the Shah family were the main faces associated with Nakumatt through its growth years. Legal and court records later showed disputes over guarantees, leases, and other obligations, matters that reached Kenyan courts as creditors scrambled to recover money.
Meanwhile, employees at Nakumatt Supermarket's only remaining branch in Kisumu have given the beleaguered retailer 7 days to pay their salaries. The decision, the employee says, is to protect them from the retailer who is shutting its doors in the lakeside city.
Nakumatt Supermarket has suspended more than 30 employees and threatened them with the sack for participating in a strike 2 weeks ago to protest non-payment of salaries. The retailer has issued show cause and suspension letters to the employees who were among those who took to Mombasa Road, Nairobi on August 1st to protest delay of...
The collapse didn't only affect investors. Thousands of employees lost jobs and many suppliers lost significant receivables. Small and medium producers who supplied Nakumatt for years were suddenly left unpaid. Landlords found themselves with empty prime retail spaces. For shoppers, Nakumatt's disappearance left a void in certain neighborhoods until competitors, including new entrants and local chains, filled those shelves. Several follow-up stories documented pension and wage issues for former staff and ongoing liquidation processes years later. Public reporting and analyst commentary pointed to several structural problems. First is poor corporate governance and lack of transparent financial controls. Second, over-reliance on debt and vendor credit to fund expansion. Third, weak liquidity management, growth without adequate cash buffers. Fourth, is failure to modernize supply chain and inventory controls as scale grew. Fifth, disputes and trust breakdown with suppliers leading to supply stoppages. Together, this made it hard to stabilize the business when stress hit. Nakumatt's fall also coincided with a changing retail landscape in East Africa. International players and regional chains moved into the market. Consumer preference evolved and real estate costs rose. Regulators and courts later played roles in liquidation and asset sales, all part of how the story concluded. There are several clear lessons from Nakumatt's story. First, growth without governance is very dangerous. Scale requires modern finance systems and independent oversight. Second, cash flow management is more important than headline growth numbers. Revenue on paper is not the same as working capital. Third, supplier relationships are strategic. When suppliers lose trust, recovery is very hard. Operational safety cannot be sidelined. The 2009 fire is a sobering reminder. Fifth, diversifying risk. Don't put too much of your operations in high fixed cost locations without contingency plans. These lessons apply to also startups and big businesses alike.
Updates, Nakumatt Supermarket is no more. This is after creditors owed up to 38 billion Kenya shillings adopted its liquidation at a meeting in Nairobi.
By late 2019 into early 2020, creditors voted to liquidate what remained and parts of the business were sold off. By the end of 2019, the Nakumatt brand had effectively disappeared from the mainstream Kenyan retail landscape, though small references and isolated stores were reported afterward. The liquidation process, pension claims and supplier settlements have continued in subsequent years. Nakumatt's story is neither a simple tale of fraud nor a single management mistake. It's a multifaceted failure, operational, financial, and governance, wrapped around rapid growth and regional ambition. For employees and suppliers, it was devastating. For the Kenyan retail sector, it was a wake-up call that modern retail requires tight financial controls and strong operational systems. For entrepreneurs, it's a reminder that success requires sustainable foundations, not only speed. If you also want to dig deeper, I've linked the key investigative pieces, official reports, and videos in the descriptions below. I used the reporting mostly from Reuters, Daily Nations, Business Daily, Standard, and some from Wikipedia as starting points. I've also listed video reports and images which you can use under fair use as allowed by YouTube for commentary. Links and image credits are in the descriptions. So, if you found this useful, like and subscribe and tell me in the comments what lesson from Nakumatt do you think?